Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us a very special guest, and her name is Stephanie Callahan. Stephanie is the business vision catalyst and is known for the fast transformation that she facilitates with her clients through working at the intersection of heart and head. She works with busy, purpose-driven entrepreneurs to own their brilliance, leverage their business, and get their message out with power, ease, and joy. So they can make a powerfully positive difference in the world, exponentially up their level profits, shift their mindset towards possibility, and take a no excuses approach to boldly creating a highly successful and meaningful business built around who they are. With her unique combination of right-brained and left-brained thinking, intuitive insight, passion, results-based coaching, powerful questioning, and strategic systemizing magic, in record time, her clients dance with joy as their visions become reality in their business. After risking personal health and happiness as a high-achieving executive and jet-lagged consultant in corporate America, Stephanie vowed not to only create a life of real freedom for herself and her family, but also to teach fellow entrepreneurs how to do the same. So, without further delay, welcome Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're welcome. So we like to give our guests an opportunity to just share with us a little bit about their journey, how they got from where they were to where they are today. So we're going to ask if you could just share that with us.
Oh, I'd love to. You know, I started my world of work, or at least my world of adult work, working as a corporate consultant. And I worked with Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 clients, and I led a team at any given point between about 250 to 300 people. And I was one of those people that actually thought that I would retire from where I started. That didn't happen because into the course of my career, the company that I really believed in went from a privately held LLC to a publicly traded company. And that's not a big deal, except for the fact that when they went to being a publicly traded company, the corporate culture really changed significantly. Mm-hmm. And in that change, I went from working with an organization that was very people-focused to a company that was very bottom line focused. And a lot of the things that we did in support of our clients, as well as a lot of things that we had done culturally in support of our own associates, was disappearing. And it got to the point within that time there that I was being asked to do a lot of different things on a regular basis that were right on my ethical border. So much so that there were days laid into that experience where I was getting physically ill at work because the people that I reported to were just asking me to do things that were just so not right for a myriad of reasons. Not illegal, but just not right. Mm-hmm. And so fortunately, I have an extremely supportive husband. And we had a conversation, and we decided that it was time for me to walk away. And it actually took me about 2 years to be brave enough to talk to my husband about it, which sounds silly now because it was such a simple conversation. It was such a simple conversation, but at the time I was nervous. And I was nervous because that meant me walking away from a high six-figure income. And we ultimately decided that that was the absolute right choice. And I did that, and I decided to start Callahan Solutions rather than getting yet another job. And when I went to decide what I was going to do within Callahan Solutions, I looked at that, the work that I did that I wanted to bring with me, the parts of that corporate experience that I wanted to bring with me that were positive, the things that I enjoyed doing, the things that I was good at doing. I looked at peer reviews and reviews from the leadership team that I reported to, and looked at those things that I did really well, and just combined that all into a business. Now, my business has morphed and changed quite a bit over the years, because one of the things that I didn't let go of, because I didn't realize I needed to at the time, but what I didn't let go of was overworking. I was a workaholic, and I almost worked myself to death, quite literally. In 2009, I was told I wouldn't see 2010 because I was so ill.
Wow.
And so in the course of getting well, I had to rethink my business. And that rethinking of my business and how I wanted to deliver services allowed me to become fully me. And really not hold back, because there was this workaholic part of me, and there was this part of me that was like, oh, well, people aren't interested in that aspect of you. And so I had blocked a lot of who I was too. So while that health experience was a scary one, I'm actually really grateful for it, because it's brought me to where I am today. And it's also allowed me to recognize that life is really short. And if it's going to be short, and if we aren't guaranteed tomorrow, then gosh, I need to be the best I can be every day. And so it's given me motivation to really go for those things in my business that are important, rather than letting fear hold me back.
Wow, that's awesome. Really, really profound. Thank you for sharing, Stephanie.
Oh, sure.
From what I got from what you've said, you're very passionate about what you do, and I imagine you've taken a lot of what you've learned from corporate America and injected it into your business, at least the parts that you really absolutely love, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And I imagine customer experience has to play a great role in that component, because if you're focusing to help people to do what they love and to realize their dreams, but at the same time be, living a fulfilled life and a passionate life, I'm sure a lot of that it requires you to inject how to create a great experience for your clients, as well as for, if they have clients, they're entrepreneurs, how they can replicate that same feeling and, experience that you do with them with their own customers. So how do you feel about customer service as a business owner yourself, about customer service on a global level? And do you think there's room for improvement?
I think that customer service or client service, I say I have clients, but customer service is the same thing in there, is one of the most integral parts of what I do. The work that I do, all the way from the conversations that we're having here, the blog posts that I write, the interactions that I have with my clients, the interactions that I have with my prospects, are all about service. The work that I do is transformational. And if people don't feel well cared for, they can't take part in that transformation in a really significant way. And then the work that they do is the same thing. So the more that you can think about the experiences that you're providing, whether it is through the conversations that you're having, whether it is through the onboarding processes that you have when you have new clients, if you're like me and you run a client-based service, but even if you have products that you sell in a brick and mortar store, products that you sell online, think all the way through that experience to make sure that it's something that's going to be really positive and enjoyable for the people that are doing business with you.
Okay. All right. So, Stephanie, tell us a little bit about what are some everyday solutions that you believe can help improve customer experience?
Oh, I love this question. So, one of them that I think can apply to a lot of people that are listening to this particular episode is to think through the experience your customers are having when they're interacting with you online. And that can be a lot of different things. So let me give you an example of a bad customer experience I had that led me to write a blog post about this. There was a time where there was someone that I was following online that I really respected. And I decided I was going to purchase a product online from this particular person. And I made a purchase. I actually made a purchase late on a Friday night. And all of a sudden, I got 7 different receipts for that same purchase. And the purchase was not a low price purchase. My credit card got impacted by over $4,000 from that one purchase. Because it wasn't a $4,000 purchase, though. It was 7 different purchases of the exact same product. So I'm frantically making phone calls to this company, trying to get a hold of anybody, pressing every key I can on the phone. Panicky, because that wasn't my intent to spend that amount of money, and I didn't need to buy 7 versions of a digital product. Now, I did eventually, after 4 hours of calling different numbers, because this person happened to have a virtual team all over the place, I did finally get a hold of somebody that had absolutely nothing to do with my purchase. I said, I need your help. I need you to escalate this. I need that money to be put back on my card immediately. And all said and done, everything got resolved, but it was 4 hours of my time in total, panic, stress, and that was also unnecessary. Because if, when they had put the product up on their shopping cart, they had had somebody test it and actually pretend to make a purchase, because you can always do a refund after you do the test. If they had just tested it, they would have seen what happens from the customer's perspective. And just because you have stuff set up correctly in the first place for, product A, doesn't mean that product B is going to be set up correctly. Test every single one of them. Look at the landing pages they're going to have. Look at the thank you pages they're going to have. Look at the emails that are going out. Look at the impact it has on a credit card and what the credit card receipts have, because the more smooth you can make that process, the happier a customer you're going to have.
That is so true. Such a profound, such a simple yet a profound example. It's so important to test, and I get you completely, because 4 hours is a lot of time that you could have been doing something better with your time.
Oh, absolutely.
What if you didn't realize, let's say their system didn't even generate the 7 receipts. It only gave 1. But then when you got your credit card statement 17 or 18 days later, you realize, oh my goodness, I've purchased this thing 7 times. It would have been even worse. So testing is so important so that people can, from a customer perspective, you can know exactly, as you said, what the process is going to be, because you don't know if you're just setting it up from the back end, but you're not actually experiencing it from the front end.
Exactly. And I actually, the trick that I have is I will ask a family member that's not technical to do the testing for me.
Right.
That's my secret trick, because if I test it myself or if one of my staff test it, we know what it's supposed to look like.
True.
So we can kind of mentally put things in there that maybe aren't really there just because we know what it's supposed to look like. So I have a few different family members that are not that technically inclined that I will ask, hey, can you just run through this real quick for me, and I'll refund it right away. But could you just go through this and let me know if anything's confusing or if the process was clunky anyway, and give me that feedback. And there's a lot of, really big corporations, the Amazons of the world have teams and teams of people that you do what they call usability testing. Mm-hmm. But smaller businesses don't have teams and teams of people to do usability testing, but you can do something really simple like that doesn't take a lot of time, that can really save your reputation and relationships by investing in time to do that.
True. All right, so that's one everyday solution that you believe can help improve customer experience. Let's say that was more of an online experience. Let's say it was a face-to-face experience. Is there any suggestions or ideas that you would like to provide to listeners who may have a brick and mortar kind of establishment, something that they could do every day that would improve their customer experience?
Be present. And again, all the things I'm going to say here are so simple. They do not have to be complex. But in our world of ever-changing attention spans, where we could have an iPad going and the cash register going and our phone ringing and someone at a counter, pay attention. whoever you're interacting with, whether it's on the phone or at the counter or what have you, give them your full attention for the time frame that you're having an interaction with them, and let them know that they are important to you. Because they are. They're your customers. If they're not, you probably shouldn't be in business, right? So give them the respect that they deserve as they are doing an exchange with you, whether it's asking a question or making a purchase. I know some people that will look at customer service only from the perspective of people that are giving them money. They become a customer when they have made a purchase from you. I would like to suggest that they're your customer the minute that they are in your sphere of influence. Because the conversations and the relationships that you build with people, even before they've made a purchase, influence how they feel about you.
All right, Stephanie, so how do you stay motivated every day?
Oh, I love that question. And really, I tie it to my why. And if you've never seen Simon Sinek's TED Talk, do a Google search on Simon Sinek and finding your why, because it's really about getting that piece that's deep inside of you that you tap into, that allows you to do all the things that you absolutely adore about your business, or to also do the things that you're less excited about. And for me, my why really ties back to my personal experiences. And I mentioned earlier in our conversation that in 2009 I almost lost my life. And the only reason that I didn't was because a really good friend introduced me to a holistic health coach that helped me figure out the complex mess that I was in and helped me so that I could be here today. But what I realized after I got well and learned more about his business is that there is absolutely no way I would have found him if I hadn't been personally introduced by a friend. And there are so many different world changers that are out there. And mind you, he would not consider himself a world changer, but he changed my world because I'm here today because of the work I did with him. So that's world changing to me. And there's so many different world changers that are out there that are very much like him, where they are just so good at what they do, but people don't even know they exist. And so my why is really to help change the world in a very positive way by helping those world changers get found and be aligned with the clients and do what they do best.
Wow, powerful stuff.
Thank you.
Powerful. What are some important considerations for an entrepreneur or an online business owner you believe that they need to really take into account in order to be successful?
I think one of the most important things, and this is probably counterintuitive to maybe even what you've heard from other guests, but I think one of the most important things is to build a business that's in alignment with who you really are. There are a lot of people that build businesses based off of what one guru or another says, and it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't work. And then you're always pushing rather than letting the beauty of life and the beauty of your ideal client find you and just flow. So the first thing that I would suggest that any business owner does is look at what they've got going on in their life right now and identify those spots that are just really feeling off and get honest about it and adjust. The more that you can build a business aligned around to who you are, then the more comfortable you are. And the more comfortable not in a bad way. I'm not saying, I'm a big proponent of step out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. When I say comfortable, I mean it matches who you are from an energy level, from a spiritual level, from a business strategy level, and from a learning and just personality values level. But the more that you're in alignment the more that your business is in alignment with who you are and the less you're pushing, the more energy you really have to be focused on somebody else, namely your customer or your client. When you have a business model that is always making you stressed, you don't have the mental capacity to be thinking of other people in the same way as you do when you are truly joyous about the work that you do.
That's true. Wow. I hope our audience out there is listening to what Stephanie's saying, some really profound tips here, things that you can definitely use to transform your life and your business so that you're living a more holistic life.
I talk to a number of clients because one of my programs is called Money Mindset and Magnetism. And the clients that align and sign up to be a part of that program are typically having challenges with their sales in one way or another. And what I find is the case with every single private client that comes into that program is that initially they're more focused on themselves. And they're not selfish people, but they're more focused on themselves than they are on the people that they're meant to serve. And so their sales conversations just implode. They don't work as well as they could. And there's so many things that when we are solid within who we are and our mindset is really clean and crisp and confident, that then we are in a different mental space to be able to truly think about the person on the other side of the counter, on the other side of the phone, over Skype, over Google Hangouts, whatever way you happen to connect with your ideal customer or client. But it allows you to think from their perspective and get much more creative with how you can make their experience a positive one. And when customers, clients, patients, however you refer to who you work with, when they have a more positive experience, they're more likely to continue to want to work with you.
True. That is true. And they become walking advocates of you and your business, right?
Absolutely. Some of my best clients come from client referrals.
Yep. That's true. All right. Now, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you couldn't absolutely live without in your business?
I adore Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft is an all-in-one marketing tool that allows you to actually, once you get into the tool, it is a little bit complex, but once you get into the tool and really use it as it's designed, it allows you to make your customer experience very personalized and build relationships, real relationships with the people that you're interacting with, rather than it being transaction-based.
Okay. Could you explain Infusionsoft to the audience so they could understand it a little bit more?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So Infusionsoft, I mentioned it's an all-in-one marketing tool, but what it is, there's different components to the tool. So one component is called their CRM, their customer relationship management section. And that's where you can gather all kinds of information about your customers and clients or patients and really give yourself good information in order to interact with them. So if it is online sales that you do, or if it's brick and mortar sales that you do, and this tool will allow you to be able to identify who's signed up for what giveaway you have, who's purchased what product, and it allows you to have a more intelligent conversation with them. If you are in a business more like mine, where it's more one-on-one interaction, it allows you to note the important things that you've learned about those people that you're working with, so that I call it my memory in a box, that portion, because I can go back to that person's record at any given point in time and know what I've talked about, what they're interested in, and it helps me refresh my memory so that I can treat the people that I'm working with great respect and honor. But it's more than the CRM. There's also an autoresponder portion to the tool where you can do newsletters, you can do automated communication based off of the types of interaction that the customers and clients are having with you, your site, or your location. There's a shopping cart portion to the tool. There's a number of different elements that can be used to really allow you to know what your customer is interested in and then be able to serve them with that. The comparison to that would be a generic emailing tool where you're sending information, kind of, I call it a a shotgun approach. You just send the exact same information to absolutely everybody, whether they're interested in it or not. And people can get really frustrated by that. I don't care about this particular program. Why are you sending it to me? With Infusionsoft, you can get smart about the communications that you're sending and only send the information that those particular people are interested in.
Very cool. All right. Okay, I like that detailed description. So all of our listeners can definitely check out Infusionsoft, whether you're an online business owner or you're a business owner that has a brick and mortar kind of setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's actually, the tool was built specifically for small business, and they have customers that are in more service coaching type industries like me, but they have people that run all kinds of different types of brick and mortar stores, whether it's retail stores or say I have a friend that owns a yoga studio. I have another friend that owns a karate school, and so that's service, but it's still within a physical location. They have customers that are just all over the globe doing all different kinds of business, but it's specifically built for small business.
Awesome. And I'm assuming that you're doing business with them because their customer service is also very good, right?
Yeah, I am. I've been doing business with them for a number of years, and like a lot of businesses, they had some growing pains at one point where they were getting customers so fast that their customer service really wasn't so good for a while, but they addressed that, and they recognized where their growing pains were starting to cause them problems, and they made adjustments. And that's probably, another tip. As your business grows, the way that you interact with your customers probably will need to change. And so be open for that. And look at those spots where maybe things are falling through the cracks that didn't used to fall through the cracks. And those are customer service improvement opportunities too.
True. All right, Stephanie, can you share with us some books that have had the biggest impact on you?
When I was thinking about customer service, I think one book that's really fantastic is a book by Jim Collins called Good to Great.
Oh, yes.
The tagline on the book is Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. You can be a good company and make a lot of money, or you can be a great company that makes a lot of money and makes an impact too. And in Jim's book, he did this study of a number of different organizations, a number of different companies, just understanding, why were some companies merely good and others great, and what did the great ones have in common? And one of those things that all the great ones had in common was really good customer service.
That is true. That is very true. I was doing some research last week for my online program that I'm building. And one of the things that the research actually outlined for me was that as we move into, we progress in terms of moving forward in the world, that the marketing budgets are now going to become the customer service budgets, because now that's the only thing that can differentiate what you're doing versus what someone else is doing. Even in the coaching platform, like since I've joined all these Facebook groups, I realize that so many people are doing the same things. How do you know who to do business with it?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. When I framed my business, I had to decide, did I want to be mass numbers or did I want to be high touch? And what I mean by high touch is how well did I know the people that I was working with, and how involved did I get with them in relation to the work that we're doing together. And I decided high touch was really where I wanted to sit in that coaching space. And so I actually have a really unique rule that I want to be able to love my customers unconditionally in order to work with them. Because when you can accept your customers and your clients unconditionally in the coaching space, then you have the ability to really help empower them to make massively fantastic changes in the direction that they're wanting to go in their business. And so that's one of my customer service is one of the ways that I'm able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so apart from Good to Great, are there any other books that you wanted to share with us that have really made a great impact on you?
There are so many really fantastic books out there. Guy Kowalski wrote Enchantment, which really is about relationship and talking about how do you engage with your community, with your tribe, with your audience, whichever phrase you want to use for that too. Robert Cialdini wrote Influence, which is it's a different form of engagement, but understanding how the words that you use impact the people that you are working with. So to make sure that you're very conscious about that and how you interact with people.
All right. So we have a lot of listeners who are business owners and managers who feel they have great products and services, but they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
Man, if you're lacking the human capital, systemize. There are so many different technologies out there that allow you to be fantastic at what you do. So let me give you an example. When I first started my business, I was going back and forth with people in email anytime I wanted to schedule anything. And I could have a number of different emails going back and forth with a number of different people at any given point, trying to just schedule one simple conversation on the phone or face to face. And sometimes I'd drop the ball because I'd miss an email, or my phone wouldn't sync to my computer, or what have you. And that is a relationship gap when you don't reply when you should. And so one way that I automated that piece of it was to set up an online availability calendar that I have programmed to sync with my calendar, that is outlining when I'm available for different types of conversations. That say I meet somebody on a Facebook group and we're going back and forth in Messenger, not even in email, because that's the other problem. You can get messages all over the place nowadays. So we're going back and forth in Messenger. In fact, that's what you and I did originally, right?
Right.
But I can now, if I'm wanting to schedule a conversation, if we say, yeah, let's get together, I can say, okay, great. Go out to this URL, pick any time that works for you. You can trust that any time that's on that calendar that shows as available, I'm also available. And it eliminates that back and forth. It eliminates the unproductive time and allows me then to have more time for the really important things of the conversation versus the administrative stuff. And there's a lot of different things that you can do within your business to automate different administrative functions and different operational functions so that you're freeing up more time to do the things that you really love to do.
True. I agree. I do. I in coming into this podcasting world and being open to the online calendar, I have seen how it can really make a difference, because guests can schedule themselves once they have that calendar link. If for any reason there's a clash and they need to cancel, they can hop on in there and cancel and reschedule themselves, and it just automatically comes as an email to my phone and it's booked into my calendar. So it's even great to the point where it syncs their time zone with my time zone. So on my end, it shows that my appointment's going to be at 10 o'clock. But on their end, if they're an hour ahead of me, that their appointment's going to be at 11. So there's no need for me to go, oh, which part of
where are you
UK,
in the world?
Right? Yeah. Could you tell me if that's Pacific or Central time? And so it makes life so much easier.
And it eliminates, when you start talking about those businesses that don't have a lot of human capital, there are some things where people interaction is critical. And there are some things like scheduling a meeting that's really administrative, and the technology is there and it makes it so easy and so streamlined that it's actually a happier customer experience than the aggravation of going back and forth. Well, that won't work for me. Oh, that won't work for me. Right. So it ultimately ends up being a better customer experience by automating that piece. Sure. And it frees you up to have more time to be able to do those pieces that are more important face to face or voice to voice, as it were.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Okay, what's one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? It could be something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
The thing that I have been working on in the last couple months that I am the most excited about is actually something that came from a love of wanting to combine the concerns of people that are podcast hosts and radio show hosts and the concerns of people that are guests on said shows. I am writing a book right now that's called Guest Appearance Gold. Skyrocket your reach, grow your influence, and attract great clients by leveraging your guest appearances and expert interviews. And what I was hearing from hosts was, gosh, we bring all these guests on and then they don't do anything to help promote the show. They just come on and they do their thing and then they get off. And that's a frustration from the host's perspective. But then I was also hearing from the guest expert side of, well, gosh, going on these shows isn't really doing a whole lot for my business. And that's largely because there's this whole piece in the middle that's missing, that wasn't being leveraged by the guest expert. And so I've written this book. It started out as a simple checklist, and after 60 pages, I said, it's not really a simple checklist anymore, because I was giving a lot of whys behind different things that people could do. Mm-hmm. And so my intention when the book is done is actually just give it away, because I'd like more people to be able to really get the biggest return on investment, in this case, time investment, that will benefit hosts of shows as well as benefit the people that are experts on those shows as well.
Wow, awesome. Well, I eagerly anticipate that opportunity when that book comes out. I hope that we can definitely get access to it. It's going to be available on your website?
Yeah, I'll have it available on the website.
Awesome. So guys, if you're out there listening and you're a podcaster or you're a radio show host, for example, and you are having some of those challenges, that's a definite resource that you can use to inject to try and see if you can boost your relationships and your client interactions.
Yeah, I actually have a couple podcast hosts and a couple radio show hosts that have previewed the book for me and have asked if they can actually just give it to their guests that are coming on, so that their guests can have an idea of different things that they can do to be a really good, someone that's easy to work with, right? Yeah. And what's interesting about when you go on shows, it's really a two-way customer service experience. Definitely. because the host is the customer of the guest, but the guest is also the customer of the host. So, when you're really working together, then you can get really amazing exposure for the conversation that you've had together, which benefits everybody.
True. It's a win-win situation for the guest, and it's also a win-win situation for the person hosting the show.
Right.
All right, so now that we've heard what you're working on and we are eagerly excited about this resource, can you tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Happy to. The fastest way to get to me online is just simply to go to stephaniecallahan.com. And in the upper right-hand corner of my site, you'll see all different kinds of links for social media connections. I'm on a number of different platforms, and it's really me. That's not something that I outsource out. And I love connecting with people in different ways and in different platforms. And if there's anything that I can do to support you, I'd love to do that.
Great. All right. Now, before we wrap the show up, we always like to ask our guests, what's one quote or saying that they kind of revert back to each time that they may face an adversity or a challenge or an obstacle? Something that, it just kind of reminds them that, listen, this is my goal, this is what I'm working towards, and that quote kind of reinvigorates them, re-energizes them. Do you have one of those?
I do. I have many. I've been collecting quotes since I was in elementary school.
Wow.
But the one, I have a really big inventory. But the one that comes to mind is by Alan Cohen. It goes like this. It takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new. But there is no real security in what is no longer meaningful. There is more security in the adventurous and the exciting. For in the movement, there is life, and in change, there is power.
Wow. That's powerful. Alan Cohen, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. So could you repeat it one more time for our guests?
Yes, since I slipped over it, I'd be happy to. It takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new. But there is no real security in what is no longer meaningful. There is more security in the adventurous and exciting, for in movement there is life, and in change there is power.
Wow, I love it. All right. Okay, well, we would like to take this time to thank Stephanie Callahan for coming on our show today. We certainly got a lot of great nuggets, ideas, suggestions, tips. I feel way more invigorated speaking to her this morning, and I hope that all of the information that she shared with us, the great impact that she's had on me, is just as amount as the great impact that she's had on you, our listeners. So if you want to reach out to Stephanie, as she said, you can catch her on our website, and stay tuned for that awesome resource that she is working on. Stephanie, when can we expect that to be out?
It's scheduled to be out in about 3 weeks.
Wow. So even more reason. I think by the time this episode is released, it will be just on time.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Again, we just want to remind our listeners that they can join our Facebook group. It's Navigating the Customer Experience Community. It's a closed group for our past guests and listeners who want to be in a common place that talks about different customer service tips and suggestions. We also speak a lot about personal development. Last week, we got a question from a listener who was asking whose responsibility is it in customer experience when you own a franchise? Is it the franchisee or the franchisor? So if you want to know some of the responses that we got for that, you need to head on over to our group and become a member. You can also follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX, and we do look forward to seeing you on another show, Navigating the Customer Experience. So thank you again, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me on, Unique.
You're welcome. So we'll see you next time. I'm your host, Unique Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more? Or improve your leadership skills? Or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.uniquegrant.com. That's YANIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at uniquegrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of each episode starting September 7, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the steps to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.